This morning we're going to talk about the PA staff estimate. And your objective this morning is by the end of the next couple of hours that you'll be ready to create a PA staff estimate as part of the joint planning process. You know, you learn in PAQC all kinds of technical skills like how to conduct an interview, how to go through visual imagery and select things, how to prep a subject matter expert to talk, how to create content. But the truth is that there are a lot of folks out there who can do those technical things. In fact, you as a public affairs leader are going to have folks working for you who not only can do those skills, but in many cases are going to be able to do them better than you can because they'll have been doing them day in, day out for years by the time you arrive. But planning and analysis and being able to look ahead, be able to warn your boss about issues, be able to prepare your boss for the information environment that he or she is going to be working in is really what you get paid for. You get paid to do critical thinking in the PA field. And it's hard. It is not easy. The public affairs field, first of all, you're probably going to be the only expert in your headquarters. You are going to be the person that everyone looks to in order to get that critical analysis about public affairs issues done. There won't be anybody else with your training and background. So the critical thing for you to be able to do is to think through, whenever you're handed an assignment, is to be able to think through those things that are going to be important, to see them ahead of time so that you can anticipate problems, anticipate opportunities, and put together a plan, a public affairs plan, that's going to help your commander achieve his or her objectives. Now, for this particular class, you have a scenario where you're going to conduct your capstone exercise, the operational support exercise, and where is that scenario going to take place? Say again? Go ahead.
I was just looking at this right here. It says CRA1.
Say again? No. That's a nice try. Philippines. You all seen the Phase 2 overview? Have you had a chance to look at that? If not, you'll have a chance to look at that this morning. So you're going to be deploying to the Philippines as part of a combined joint task force. This combined joint task force is going to conduct an exercise. It's something that we do every day somewhere in the world. We are conducting an exercise to train with our partners, to help those in need, to get ourselves ready for future war fighting that we may have to do. So the CJTF Eagle Fury will be deploying to the Philippines. Now, you're going to be the public affairs staff for that combined joint task force. In the Phase 2 overview, you have some documents that you need to look at. We'll look at those in a little bit. And out of those documents, out of that early initial guidance, you're going to have to figure out a couple of things. One, what is the information environment that I'm going to be operating in? What are the issues that my audiences are going to be interested in? What are the challenges and the opportunities that I'm going to face as a public affairs officer in order to be able to help my commander achieve the objectives of the exercise? In other words, what will my mission be? And thankfully, the Department of Defense has a way, a structured way, for you to think through all of those issues. It's partly a checklist, it's partly an aid memoir, it's something that you can produce that by the time you're finished producing it, will serve several purposes. One of those purposes is to inform you and your commanders about those things that I've just talked about. Inform you and your fellow staff officers out there about the information environment. The second thing is it's going to give you material, research material, ammunition, if you will, that will allow you to create a plan. The staff estimate is not a plan. The staff estimate is the raw material you need to be able to construct that plan. It's going to help you take part in the joint planning process because the commander and the staff are going to ask you to do several things. Commander and staff is going to ask you to contribute to discussion of courses of actions. How are we going to achieve this mission that we've been given? The commander and the staff are going to ask you to help in determining which one of those courses of action is the best course of action, one that has the lowest risk, the one that will be the easiest for us to achieve our objectives. So that staff estimate is going to provide you reference material to be able to help to contribute in that way. Finally, it's going to be able to allow you to write Annex F, and you know that you have Annex F coming up as one of your projects here at the resident course. Annex F is a plan. Annex F is the Public Affairs Operations Order. All right? And that Annex F, the staff estimate gives you the raw material you need to do critical thinking and come up with an actual plan that people are, a PA plan that people are going to be able to execute. Now, we are going to teach you a format. The format that we teach here is right out of an Army manual, but it's based on the Joint Pub 5-0. But in Army's FM 3-61 is the best format that we've found in the doctrine for you to use. And I'm going to go over that in a little bit. The second thing that we've given you to help you construct this is an example. I think, sir, that's what you were looking at. It's not about your current mission. If you look in your Blackboard folder, you'll see that there's an example, because a lot of folks, I can talk through this, you can read the manual, and still it's a little bit difficult sometimes for you to figure out exactly what they're asking for. So look at the example. You can't just, because I know someone will, you can't just cut and paste it into your estimate. But it shows you how one is organized and what the issues are that we talk about. And it also gives you kind of a template for how long it should be, what you should address, and some of the things that you need to talk about. All right. Estimates are your tool. So we're going to teach you a format. We're going to expect you to use that. But look, in the real world, when you sit down to do an estimate, feel free to modify it as you see fit. It's your document. Others will look at it. But for the most part, again, it's just a tool to assist you in doing the critical thinking and coming to understand the information environment that you're going to operate in. Okay? So that's the purpose of the staff estimate. When does it start? When does it stop? Well, in fact, the staff estimate starts the minute that you receive an order. You will start collecting that, and in many cases, there may be one that you can use as sort of a base document to help you produce one. So we're going to do Tooele 10. So if I were a smart PA and I was told, all right, you're going to be part of Combined Joint Task Force Eagle Fury, and you are going to be the PA for this, and we're going to go to the Philippines to conduct this annual exercise, Tooele 10. What might be a good thing to go and find?
Staff estimate from Tooele 9.
The staff estimate from Tooele 9, okay? So we don't want to reinvent the wheel. You can use that as a basis for your first one. Unfortunately, for the purposes of this exercise, you are unable to find a previous staff estimate. That happens sometimes. But what's the danger of just pulling out last year's staff estimate, changing the dates, and using that? Things change, absolutely. And your predecessor, maybe he or she was a knucklehead. It's possible. It does happen. So you want to be careful about using last year's. You want to be careful because things do change. Anybody familiar with a change in leadership in the Philippines over the last year or so? Anybody? Go ahead.
Oh, they kind of renounced their, decades-long treaty with the United States.
They sorta, kinda did. Yeah, they said, who's the new president of the Philippines? Name is Rodrigo Duterte. Okay, he's kind of a populist. He has taken over. He has some radical ideas about, for instance, the war on drugs, where he announced he was just going to simply kill all the basically ordered the police and the army to kill drug dealers. And, so you get past all that court stuff. He has not been entirely friendly to the United States, threatened to end exercises, cozied up to China a little bit, has renounced some of the agreements that we have made in the recent past about basing rights in the United States. So things change. That's an important factor in the information environment in the Philippines. And I think that's a good illustration of why you need to, even with some starting point, why you need to go ahead and rethink everything that you do. All right. So we're going to do two things today. The first thing is that we will go through the mission statement, because one of the most important outputs that you will get is, in fact, the mission statement. What is your public affairs mission? And once we've done that, figured out what it is we're supposed to do, then we will we'll look at the format of Joint FM 3-61, the format for the staff estimate, and we'll do a short exercise where you look at some of the background material that you have, and we'll go ahead and take what you think are the important things in order to be able to start writing that staff estimate. So we'll fill in a little bit of it. Once that's done, you'll be on your own. You do have a lab period later on this week where Mr. Bird and myself will come back and we'll talk you through some of the difficult patches that we have in the estimates, and that will give you some time to create that document, which you'll be turning in next week, I believe. So you'll have, the good news is you'll have the entire weekend to work on it. All right. So let's talk about a mission statement. Students often have trouble with mission statements. First thing you have to understand in the staff estimate, as in the Annex F, is that we're not talking about the overall headquarters mission. CJTF Eagle Fury has a mission statement, and that's fine. But what we want is your take on what is the PA mission? What is the public affairs mission? Because it should support the overall mission, but it's important to take a look at it from the PA perspective. All right. Mission statements are really easy. I should say most of it's easy. About 4/5 of it is easy. So when you talk mission statement, you're really talking 5 W's. All right? Who, what, what's another W? Where, when, and why. What does that look like? Say again? It looks like a news lead. That's what I tell students. So the mission is your lead. If a lead is properly constructed, do I get a sense of the article that's going to follow? In fact, can I read the lead and get a good idea of what the author's main point is or what's happened? If you've done it right, yes. Same thing with the mission. And like I said, it's very easy. So in this case, when I say who are we talking about? Who is going to undertake the PA mission? The PAO, but which PAO? The CJTF Eagle Fury PAO. So there we go. That's 1/5. That's pretty easy. CJTF, Combined Joint Task Force, Eagle Fury, PA. Oh, we can say PA. Because PAO is a public affairs officer, but he or she is not going to do it by themselves, right? They're not going to rip their shirt open, big giant P. I'll get the. It's the PA staff. And in fact, who does public affairs? Everybody really does public affairs. So, but we're going to talk about the CJTF Eagle Fury Public Affairs. All right. Where are we going to do this?
Philippines.
Philippines. All right, remember, 1 L, 2 P's. It's not Philippians, all right? It's Philippines. So, don't get your staff estimate, don't lose 2 or 3 grades because you misspelled the Philippines throughout. But yes, so we're going to do it in the Republic. You could say Republic of the Philippines. You could say the Philippines and surrounding waters because we are kind of doing some naval exercises as far as that goes. When are we going to do it? It's a little bit of a trick question. We don't actually know, do we? Okay? So when you know you're going to do something, but you don't know when exactly, because if you look at Phase 2 overview, it says D-Day. I mean, why do we use D-Day? Yeah, but why don't we just give the actual date rather than using D-Day?
Because we don't know for sure a lot of things have to occur first.
We don't know what the actual date is, and so we use D-Day. So on some day, we're going to start, we don't know when. So now, if we knew, and at some point we will know, but if we knew, we would put the exact date when we start, but we don't know. And so typically you want to say something like on order, all right? Or when directed. Okay, so we've got the who, the where, and the when. Now we need to figure out the last two. And the what and the why are the most difficult parts of this. What, as we'll see, is not all that difficult, but the why can be very difficult. And that's the key, is to figuring out, because we can figure out what we're doing, but sometimes we don't know why. And if we don't know why, then when things go wrong or we have to improvise, sometimes it can lead us down the wrong direction. Now notice when I say what we're doing, I'm not talking about how we're going to do it, because we don't know that yet. We have not created our plan yet. We're just trying to figure out what it is that we're trying to do. Okay. Yes, ma'am?
To familiarize ourselves with the country.
Say again?
To familiarize ourselves with the country and what's going on in it.
Well, is that why we would do something? It's not why we're doing the estimate. It's why we're doing the mission. All right? And we'll think through that. I'm gonna take a short break here because we need to figure this out before we go much further. But here's what I'd like you to take a look at. We're a little ahead of the time, but I'm gonna put you on a 10-minute break while we figure out the IT difficulty. What I'd like you to do is take a look at the commander's intent in the Phase 2 overview. So go ahead and do that, and we'll get restarted at 0830. All right, welcome back, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started again, and this time with Annette. So let me flash through a couple of slides. I tend to do this anyway, is talk, turn the slides off, talk, and then show you slides, because I'm required to do that. We've talked about our objective. We're now on mission analysis. This is the purposes that I told you about. Again, it's going to inform the commander and staff. It's going to look for key factors. It's going to help in determining which course of action are best. It's going to help the commander make decisions. It's going to help you create your NXF if you do it right. And it can be oral written. That's why I say in the real, for you, for the purposes, training purposes, it will be written. But look, if you're facing an emergency, if you're facing a crisis and you don't have time to sit down and write it, at least go through a mental form of it. And again, it's just an aid to critical thinking so that you can consider what information environment you're going to be looking at. But it can be presented orally or in writing. It never really stops, but it primarily is intended to help get you through the joint planning process and eventually to create your PA annex. If you like, it's the research and analysis phase of the planning process. And you're going to find that you have to do research. You are unlikely to be deployed to an area where you are a complete expert on everything. If so, good on you, but most times you're going to have to learn something about the environment you'll be operating in. All right, let's ask a few questions. So what is the purpose of the PA staff estimate? What are some of the things? And I hate to just say, Lieutenant, what was one of the purposes?
Generate some raw data to help generate the NXF.
It helps you to produce the NXF. About you, sir?
To help the command staff understand the role of PA.
To help them make decisions, inform them of the issues. Ma'am, one more.
And it's for future planning, to help with the planning.
Yeah, it helps with the planning process, which determining which course of action it's going to be. So inform the commander and staff how public affairs is going to support the mission, support course of action development, and selection. So you are all right. Everybody gets a gold star for that. All right. From what perspective does a PA staff estimate look at a specific mission? Don't shout it out all at once. I can't hear. Yes, sir.
The public affairs perspective.
Absolutely, from a public affairs perspective. Remember, nobody else is looking at it from a public affairs perspective, right? The artillerymen are looking at it from a firepower perspective, and the ship drivers are looking at it from a naval perspective, and the special forces are looking at it from a, from a kill them all sort of amount of perspective. So you're looking at it from the public affairs. That's what you get paid to do. All right. True or false? Before drafting the PA estimate, you're going to have to do some research and analysis.
True.
True. There we go. Let's go here. All right. So we're going to talk mission analysis. This is what comes out of this is your mission statement. First of all, we have to determine facts and assumptions. All right. This is where you're going to do your research analysis. What do we know to be true, and what do we have to assume to be true? We'll come back to that in a little bit as we go through and start looking at our estimate. But just keep in mind, what do we know to be true, and what do we need to assume in order to continue planning? What limitations are we going to have? And limitations come in two flavors. And you're normally going to be given these. You're going to be told that you must do something, that's a constraint, you have to do something, or a restraint, things you can't do. And in fact, we're going to look at in the warning order, because that's all we have now, right now, warning order, commander's intent, some intel analysis, sort of a general concept of the operation. In the warning order, you'll see that you're going to have a constraint and a restraint, and we'll see if we can identify those. And that kind of gives you your left and right limits. You know, within these are things I must do or I am not allowed to do when I put together my plan. And then finally, what tasks exactly do I have to do? And again, these come in 3 flavors. Well, actually 2, and then you extract one from the other 2. Specified tasks. Things that somebody has written down or they've been assigned to you by the commander through an order, specified task. It's there on paper that you've been told to do. And implied tasks. Implied tasks are kind of difficult to explain sometimes, but basically you're the expert, you're the public affairs expert, and so you're given specified tasks. But you know that in order to get those done, there are other tasks you must accomplish. Or, what's more likely is people don't give you sufficient specified tasks, and therefore you have to figure out what it is they're asking you to do. And we'll take a look at how we sort that out. Look, I was an armor officer in my previous life in the Army, and one good thing about being an armor officer is that 95% of my tasks were specified. I was generally told what to do. And I might have 5% implied tasks. Because I worked for armor officers and I had armor officers below me. We were one big happy armor family. Had to work for infantry every now and then, but still, that's maneuver. You don't work for PAs, you work for your commander, who's probably not a public affairs officer. And the commanders below you are not public affairs officers. So when they write their orders, that gets turned on its head. And you'll find that as a public affairs officer, about 5% of your tasks are specified and 95% are implied. And that can make life difficult. So we'll go through and we'll figure those out. Now, eventually, you would compile a list of specified and implied tasks, and out of that pile of tasks, you would have essential tasks. Essential tasks are those that you have to complete in order to be successful as the public affairs. Okay? They are essential to the public affairs part of the mission. Okay? And that is the what. Those essential tasks are the what that go in your mission statement. All right, so I've talked about this. Mission statement, 5 W's, contains only essential tasks. And it's part of the products of mission analysis, second step in the joint planning process. So you're going to produce an estimate, a restated mission statement. There'll be some other things that come out from the headquarters. CCIR, Commander's Critical Communication Information Requirements. But we're not going to talk about those, so be aware of them. We're not going to talk about those last 3 for right now. Really what we're going to focus on is the estimate and the restated mission. All right. So contrast a specified from an implied task. What's the difference?
Specified is written, it's what you're being told to do.
Okay.
And implied is implied. So
Yeah, additional tasks that must be accomplished to complete the mission. Yes, sir?
Could you give just a quick example of what?
We're going to go through that in just a second. So yeah, that's an excellent question. We'll try to do that. What is a mission statement? What are the two characteristics of it? Ma'am. Yes. No, no, I'm sorry, was it not? Let me get this right here. Yes, yes, ma'am. What's one of the characteristics of a mission statement? Five what? 5 W's. There we go. Thank you. And ma'am in the back, what was the other one? It contains essential tasks. You have to forgive me. I have tanker's ears after all these years, so I can't always hear. Yes. Short sentence or paragraph that contains the 5 W's of an operation and only essential tasks. True or false? Staff estimates are never presented orally. False, that is. False. Oh, you've unlocked a bonus fun fact. That's good. So what has been the deadliest war of the last 20 years, 1996 to 2016? Afghanistan? That is incorrect, but thank you for playing. What? World War II was ended in 1945, so no. Iraq? Any other question? Any other?
The deadliest in the last 20 years?
I asked you first.
There's like a couple of ways to interpret that. This is like what?
So the one that killed the most people,
So Afghanistan.
Not. It doesn't have to necessarily involve the. So you're overthinking it. Thank you, but deadliest war doesn't necessarily have to involve the U.S.
Oh.
The war on drugs? No. All right.
What is it?
So you guys give up. All right. So let's do this Letterman style. So number 3, Sudanese Civil War, 2003-2009, about 6 years. Still ongoing, but this was kind of the hottest part of the war. 300,000 dead. Syria, come on folks, Syria, and this is actually as of 2015, so probably added to that. 450,000 in those years. Probably you could add another 50 to 100,000. But the number 1 war is one that nobody ever gets. And the reason why I have this bonus fun fact here is that we think sometimes that we know the world, and we don't. And that's why the staff estimate is so important. Because it's going to uncover things, in this case about the Philippines, that you didn't know but that are critically important. So the Second Congo War, anybody heard of it? 98 to 2003. In the Congo in Africa. The most conservative estimate, 865,000 dead, but in general, probably about 2.8 million dead in those 5 years. Why is that something that we're not all aware of?
Well, a few reasons. First of all, it is not as publicized through the media as
The media hasn't
some
covered
of
it.
These other wars.
Mhm.
Not as popular.
Not as popular, yeah. So the media hasn't covered it. I guess it's not been considered newsworthy. Happens in Africa, far away, not a lot of oil involved. U.S. has not been involved. So from that perspective, it's something that is critical. We just actually we just sent public affairs officers from this schoolhouse to the Congo to teach public affairs to local military. So it's not ignored by the professional, by the DOD, because it is important. But it just shows you that we oftentimes, there's stuff we just miss about what's going on in the world. All right. What I'd like to do now is, hopefully you've all got Blackboard. If not, look up over somebody's shoulder. I want you to take a look at 2 documents. And I'll narrow it down, but there's 2 documents in the Phase 2 overview. One is the warning order. Look at the mission statement and look at the public affairs guidance. And I would like, actually this half of the room, look at and you can do it individually, but look at the mission statement and the warning order and the public affairs guidance and extract all of the specified tasks that are in there for public affairs. On this side of the room, I'd like you to look at the commander's intent. And I'll give you a clue. He doesn't actually give any specified tasks, but pull out the implied tasks from the commander's intent. And let's just take that, take about 5 minutes to do that. Give that a quick look. Do it individually and just pull out all of the specified or implied tasks that you can find. All right, well, let's start with the easy stuff first. So, specified task. Specified task. Anyone? Say again? Yes. I would like you to read them, or you can put them in your own words. But what is a specified task?
First one is for any news and public media inquiries to be taken and referred to the Director for Defense Information, OASD,
Okay. Until such time, basically I think it says until such time, but initially we have to refer all questions to OASD PA, which is the Office of the Assistant to the Secretary of Defense for Public Affairs. Basically, they're saying don't say anything until after we give you permission. What do we call that? That's a constraint, right? That's a starts with an L. Limitation. That's right. So we do have a limitation, but that is a specified task. Any other specified task? Okay. So you have to write PPEG. Anything else? All right, so we have 2 specified tasks. Yeah, keep the joint. Yeah, I mean that's true, but that's fairly minor, and that applies to everybody, not just PA. So only 2. Are those very helpful in putting your plan together? Not really. It's pretty much boilerplate. Well, let me go to the other side of the room. Now, when we talk about, and this is where we get into examples of implied tasks, because does the commander at any point say, hey, PA, I want you to do this? No, he doesn't. But what does he talk about in there? What can you extract? And again, this is what you get paid for, to do the critical thinking and analysis. So he's put out this guidance. One thing you would want to do that we won't do here because we don't have a commander, but if you're unclear, go talk to the commander. Go say, sir, you know, what do you see my role in the operation? Invaluable. It's worth, you know. But in this case, all you have is a commander's intent to get you started. What do you think he wants, if you ask him, what do you think he would say he wants the PA to do? What can you help with?
Go
ahead.
Based on what he says, yeah, he wants to establish good relationships with the local population.
Okay.
So the PA roles would be doing public relations, reaching out.
We don't do public relations. So you didn't hear that. What do we call it? What do we call that?
Community relations.
Community engagement. Now, do we do community engagement overseas? Technically, no, but are you going to be involved in that? I think you'll definitely be supporting it. So go ahead.
Not to get too much into the weeds, but
No, go ahead.
Do we do community engagement indirectly, perhaps through civil affairs?
Yes, because overseas, typically civil affairs does the community engagement. But how can you support community engagement overseas? You're shaking your head no.
I work at US AFRICOM, and I'm in public affairs at US AFRICOM, and one of our main missions is community engagement.
That's why I said technically, if you look at the doctrine, is that civil affairs is the lead for community engagement. But sometimes we run out of civil affairs or public affairs gets heavily involved in it. So yes, now we don't know exactly how we'll get involved. We don't know the how yet, but we can extract it. The commander wants to do community engagement. As a PA, even if we're not in the lead, we can help. So one of your implied tasks is community engagement. Does that explain a little bit? nobody specifically said PA, do community engagement. But we can, by looking at the commander's intent, we can imply, or he is implying, I guess we infer, that we are going to be doing that. What else? Sir?
Ensure staff generates material, photo, video, stories, which highlight the exercise as well as community engagement.
Okay, so does he give any clue as to what parts of the exercise he would like highlighted?
I didn't read that, no.
Okay.
If I was thinking internally and generate talking points for individuals involved in this in the event that they are approached by
Yeah.
other media, so they would say their stuff.
Yeah. Did you have a comment?
Well, there's also going to need to be some sort of public acknowledgement or press releases or something going along with the community health engagements,
Okay.
with the engineering activities that are designed to improve the life of the populace, and of the series of planned events where we're getting people interacting with the populace.
Okay.
So there's a implied set of everything from handholding to creating content to distributing content,
Okay.
all around a whole set of different activities, some of which are community engagement, some of which are construction.
Yes, so what he says, and you all get a chance to look at it, he says, look, he says, I intend to use community health engagements, which you used to call MedCaps, DENCAPs, but some colonel won the Legion of Merit and we changed it to community health engagements. So community health engagements, he wants to highlight that. He wants to highlight the civil assistance because we're having engineers who are going to come in and do stuff that it's going to help the community. So he wants to highlight that. And then he talked about, does he talk about the Philippine Army or the Armed Forces of the Philippines in there at all?
He talked about increasing the capacity of local airfields and for
Yes.
maybe for future use of future U.S. military forces. In the Western Pacific and South China Sea.
Right. But he also talks about he wants to increase the confidence of the Filipino people in their own armed forces. Can we help with that? How could we help increase the confidence of the Filipino people in their own armed forces during this exercise?
Operating under, and there's the bad word, the assumption that they look at the United States Armed Forces as superior, just for lack of a better word, imagery and video showing them working together.
Okay.
Very well encompass something like that.
Yes, that's to show them working with us. Ma'am, did you have something similar? Or you raised your hand.
I did for a little bit. I was just going to say teach their PAs how to do something they have to do.
Could also, there could be a training with AFP PAs, but we'll stick with this right now. So highlight community health engagements, humanitarian civic assistance, show the Philippine the armed forces of the Philippines doing good things. So when we do say, and you said a whole range of, when we produce content and visual imagery and we facilitate the media and get them out to these things and we help get the story out, what do we call that? Is there a term for that where we... That's right, public information, right? Isn't that what you do? Public information? You're engaging with the media, getting the story out? Yes, everybody should be nodding vigorously at this point. Yes, public information. So we can kind of use shorthand for public information. All right, so all these implied tasks then is where we put what. Now, we've got these two specified tasks and we have two implied tasks. Which of these four are essential tasks? Which of these four we will fail if we don't get these done? We will fail in our PA mission. First two were write PPAG, proposed public affairs guidance, and then basically refer everything to OASD PA.
I would say these two.
You'd say these two, ma'am?
I would say community engagement.
Okay.
The commander's mission is to build relationship with the Filipino native.
Okay. So you would not put public information as a essential task. How about you? Which of those four do you think are essential? Community engagement? How about you, sir?
I think public permission and community engagement.
So you do both. What about you?
Wouldn't it be what we were tasked with? Because if we don't do those tasks, we fail.
If you don't write PPAG, will you fail in your mission?
Not necessarily.
Okay, here's the good news. There's no right or wrong answer, okay? It's your decision what's essential. If you say writing PPAG is essential, then it should go in here. If you say, if we didn't write PPAG, which I think we could still get these things done, and I think these are the essential tasks, then you would just include that. If you think both of those are essential, then that's what goes there. If you think it's just community engagement. So there's no right or wrong answer.
But is that even up to us? If our commander says, I
A
want you to do
specified
this,
task is not always an essential task. Has anyone here ever had a commander tell them to do something that was stupid, irrelevant, silly, non-productive?
Ever.
Okay, for those of you who've never had that experience, it does happen from time to time. Mr. Bird, you were a sergeant major. Did you ever hear a commander issue a silly tasking? Maybe once or twice. So look, I'm just telling you from my experience, specified does not equal essential. Now, could you get in trouble if you don't do it? Yes. But there's a difference between, being counseled on failing to do PPAG and failing in your mission. So, yes, sir.
Is it fair to say that you should really be looking at your resources when you're kind of determining your essential task?
No. And why would you not? Why is picking the essential tasks, you don't want to look at your resources? Why would you not want to operate that way?
If you can identify tasks as essential, then when you plan out what resources you need, then you can go ask for those resources.
That's the right way. You look at your essential tasks first and figure out what resources you need. Don't look at your resources and say, well, I can't get this done. Because what you'll be telling your boss is, I can't do my job. What you need to tell your boss is, these are the essential tasks. You, sir, ma'am, need the following PA resources to get these done. That's part of the estimate process. So excellent question. So what? Essential tasks. Now why? Why do we want to do this? What's the bottom line? And I think you mentioned it. We know what we're going to do. We'll just go with these two for now. We'll say community engagement, public information. But why are we doing it?
Sounds simple, that to meet the commander's intent.
Yes, but not very useful, actually. You are correct, but that's not what you want to put in your mission statement, because you could put that for any mission statement ever at any time. What makes it? What do we specifically try? Why would we do these things?
Isn't it to support the Gentex mission to conduct security operations activities?
In order to
increase
build harder
interoperability.
capabilities, improve shared situational awareness.
You could, but is that really our? Are we actually going to? We could in interoperability, maybe if you included PA training, but what are we really trying to do here? Why are we doing these things?
Public information.
Highlight.
That's what we're doing, but why are we doing it?
Highlight.
That's what we're doing. The question is, why are we doing it?
To inform the general public of what their tax dollars are being used for.
It could be, okay, we're going to leave this for right now because I don't want to completely write your mission statement for you. But if it were me, I would say we're doing these things because when we look at all the tasks out there, is you can pull it, again, a lot of PA stuff is implied. We can pull it from the mission sometimes, from the commander's intent others. I think why we want to do it is we want to increase the confidence of the Filipino people in their armed forces. And do we want to improve relationships between the U.S. and the Filipino people?
Increase the U.S. access to the bases in the Western Pacific.
And how do you get that? Partly is by making us popular with the Filipino people, by showing them the benefits of working with the U.S., especially in today's environment where China is a regional peer competitor. So we'll leave that for right now, but that's the hardest part. This is the hardest part. We figured out what we want to do. Why we want to do it can be difficult. So what does it sound like? It's very easy. Typical mission statement. You can see an example in the example staff estimate. But on order, CJTF Eagle Fury PA deploys to the Philippines, conducts community engagement and public information operations in order to increase support for American bases, in order to increase the support of the armed forces of the Philippines amongst their populace, etc. However you decide what that why is. Okay, questions on the mission statement? It's critical. Look, this is your lodestone, your compass, all right, for the rest of the operation. Yes, sir.
So who does this go to? Because if we're saying the why we want to increase our popularity so that we can put our bases there, obviously we don't really want to say that to the Philippines. Like,
Correct.
hey, guys, we're trying to
You're,
make you our friend.
we're trying to make you our friend. We're doing nice stuff to you so that we can use you in the future. Yeah, you probably don't want to publish, but
This is internal, though.
yeah, this is internal. This is for us. It's normally classified. It's going to go in your Annex F, but it's something that you want to you want to get right, but it's not for public distribution. Okay, so I'd like to do another little exercise because now we need to start familiarizing ourselves with the information environment and start filling out that staff estimate format, which we'll have here in just a moment. So what I'd like you to do is I'm going to break you up into groups again. So we have several documents that I want you to look at. So this group right here, I would like you to look at the JIPO, the Joint Intelligence Estimate that's in the Phase 2 overview, so U4 right there. And here's what I'd like you to do, is pull out, each one of you, pull out a fact, one fact, that you think will affect the way you do operations in the Philippines. All right, that's what we're looking for. Things that are going to affect the way we do public affairs in the Philippines. Yes, I think it's just before the ground rules. It's a 2-page extract from the Joint Intelligence. If you have problems, I'll help you in a minute. For you four, I would like you to take a look at the Philippine Country Book. It's in their separate document. And I would like you to look at terrain and weather and media in that. And again, pull out one fact each. Each one of you pull out a fact that's going to affect the way you do business as a PA.
Country brief.
Yes, it should be down at the bottom. And for the rest of you, I'd like you to look at the Phase 2 overview, but the concept of operations and the PA, there's a list of PA assets that you'll have in there. So if everybody would do that, and again, pull out one fact. We'll take let's take 10 minutes. If you finish early, you can work a break in that, but please be back and ready to go at 9:20 so that we can have our big finish here. Okay? So 9:20, one fact each. Thank you. So we've got about 15 minutes for our big finish here, so we're going to go through the format fairly rapidly. Again, you can find the format in FM 3-61. It's Appendix B or C, it escapes me, but it's one of the appendices, and it will give a short explanation of what goes in. Using that and the example, and everything in the example, by the way, does not apply to the Philippines, but using it as a guide, it should give you a fairly good look at what we expect you to produce. We're going to talk about the first 2 paragraphs, not really the last 3, 4, 5, and 6, because 3, 4, 5, and 6 apply to later parts of the joint planning process. What we're most interested in is paragraph 1, which is really the information environment, and paragraph 2, which is the mission statement. And the others, once you've done that, then you would start applying courses of action. You'd do analysis and comparison, and finally you would recommend to your boss, either the PAO or the commander, this is how we think we should operate, or this is the course of action we prefer from a PA perspective. So be aware of these paragraphs, but for your exercise, we're just going to do 1 and 2. All right. Put this up and so, well, we'll start over here. Ma'am, give me your fact.
Pulled out was that the Philippines, they have 2 primary languages,
Okay?
Tagalog and English.
Okay, so where do we put that? Well, that's an interesting one. It's something, let's put that aside for right now. So Tagalog and English are their primary languages. Sir, what was your fact?
We put them all down on this here.
Okay. So give me one each.
That the weather is usually hot and extremely humid, and combines into the opportunity for heat stroke. It's also typhoon season.
Okay. So it's typhoon season. All right. Anything else?
The terrain, it's mountainous terrain. The 2 main islands,
Mhm.
densely populated.
Okay.
Media plays a huge role in the population, and there's 90% saturation of television.
Okay.
Because they rely so heavily on media, you have militias come in and kill a lot of reporters, which makes it a dangerous environment for public affairs.
All right. Thank you. Sir, did you have a fact? Yeah, but go ahead.
We have 20 public affairs staff.
Okay.
Organic with the JTA.
Okay, that's coming with it. Sir, did you have a fact?
Well, not factual. We were on something else in there. It's going to be difficult to cover everything that's going on internally with naval.
Okay, because of the number and spread of events.
Yeah, that's.
Because you have stuff taking place all over. You've got stuff taking place in the ocean, stuff taking place in the mountains, terrain, amphibious landings, HCA. Sir.
When we're looking specifically at the community engagement opportunities,
Mhm.
those also have widespread spread geographically and a large number numerically of schools being built, hospitals, et cetera, that we'll need to plan for, and figure out what is going to be covered.
Okay, well, it's basically the same thing then, just a number and spread of events. You just added that it's going to require,
Just specifically on the community engagement
yeah,
events, because much of our available PA side of things, which limits the number of.
You don't know that
I
yet.
don't know that.
You don't know that yet. Ma'am, did you have a fact?
One of the things I noticed was not only do we have 20 PA staff that are
Mhm.
mechanically assigned, there's several collateral duty people that we have that
Okay.
I think we should make note of, not necessarily that we'll be able to use 100% because there are maybe extra resources available.
Absolutely. Ma'am?
For the Cyclone operations, they have typhoons there
Okay.
6 times a year.
We did get that before, but why is that important?
For mobilization, movement around the country.
Okay, so mobility. All right, that's good. Sir, what fact did you come up with?
Fact that I came up with is that they have several terrorist groups that frequently attack U.S. interests.
Okay. All right, let me move on. Sir, how about you?
For Oriental Mindoro, their main economy is centered around tourism and agriculture. So any operations that might affect that could affect public perception of our military.
Okay. Ma'am, what did you come up with?
All of the media requires escorts.
Why do you say that?
Well, if they're on the base, on American bases, they require escorts. So that would affect resources.
Okay. And last, go ahead.
Well, I have the same one that you did.
Okay. Well, let me ask you, then I'll ask you this. Why is the presence of active terrorist/insurgent groups, how does that affect PA operations?
I think that it's important to know, especially when we're reporting where we're having military operations, that makes us a huge target security-wise.
Okay.
All out there.
So security, both in the sense of OPSEC, but also force protection. Okay. Sir.
I think one of the biggest things to take away from this is that the media is extremely influential.
Mhm.
Everybody uses Facebook, everybody uses text message. So if we need to get our message across, if we need to influence the Filipino people to like us, the media is going to be our go-to.
Okay. Well, that's probably true. Actually, it is true. I think we need to, as you look at the country book there, you take a look at. You want to get through to the Filipino people because clearly the Filipino people are going to be one of your primary audiences. Correct? And we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second. But you are correct. This is the whole purpose of doing the staff estimate. Now, clearly, you need to read through all these documents with a fine-tooth comb. So when you sit down to do these, you have to look at the Phase 2 overview, everything that's in there. You have to look at the Filipino country book. And then you're going to have to do some independent research because you will find there will be some holes in your knowledge. And what we've done here is we've begun to sort it out. So we're looking, when I sit down to grade your estimates, or if I were your boss looking at a product that you produce in the field, what I'm looking for here is area of interest is what are we doing and what in general about the area is critical that we need to understand. What is the level of media interest? So, for instance, here in the area of interest, this is where you'd put this. You'd say, hey, we're going to be conducting security cooperation activities, exercise in the Philippines. Philippines is an island nation. Our activities are going to be spread out. Some of them will be simultaneous. This is going to affect the number of PA assets that we're going to need. We don't know how we're going to do it yet, but we can see that we're going to be spread pretty thin unless, and this is, you say, hey, there are a number of CDOs or UPARs out there. So what you should be doing is making connections between these facts that you're gathering. We're going to be spread out. We do have a number of CDOs and UPARs. That may be, again, we're not figuring out our plan yet, but That may be a solution. We do have 20 PA staff that will be working for us, actually working within the, not directly for us, but working within the task group. So, maybe we leverage these in order to be able to cover everything we want to cover. What were our shortfalls here in the people that were attached to us? Anybody notice any shortfalls? And could it be related to the fact that Filipinos speak different language? And it's not just Tagalog and English, right? It's Visayan and others. Yeah.
Both translation and protocol.
Okay. So we'll just talk translators real quick. Do we know if any of these folks speak Tagalog? Okay, we don't. So probably, since we need to speak to Tagalog speakers and others, Visayan, we're probably going to need some translators. So we begin to identify shortfalls. And all of these can be tied together. Hot, humid, bad weather, typhoon season, mountainous, agricultural, mobility. How many Blackhawks do you think the PA section will be assigned? None. So what are one of the conclusions that you might draw from doing your estimate? What are you going to need? You're going to need transportation. Where are you going to get it from? We don't know yet, but we know we're going to need it. Okay. All right. Let me briefly go through all of these paragraphs and just highlight what we're looking for here. And then I'm going to finish up with the biggest part that should go in each paragraph. So, area of interest. You need to talk about what we're doing. You should say, hey, we're doing Tuala 10 in the Philippines. And anything else about it, that it's going to be spread out, that we're going to have a lot of simultaneous things taking place on. It's kind of a catch-all. But at minimum, what are we doing? Where are we doing it? What's the level of media interest going to be? Yes, sir.
Quick question.
Yeah.
This stuff you just said 10. This stuff is 2008, 2010.
Right.
When we do our research, are we getting modern day numbers, or are we just strictly?
You should, if you find something that is more modern, then yes. Okay? And you're going to find, look, when you go to look up, you're getting sent to Botswana, and you go to look up the official government documents on Botswana, they're all going to be 15 years out of date. So that's why I say, yeah, you're going to have to do research. Characteristics of the terrain. What about the terrain is going to affect PA operations? What about the weather is going to affect PA operations? Enemy forces. I don't like the word enemy. I prefer adversary. So we know that there are forces out there who kill reporters, kill journalists, tends to suppress the level of news that you get. We know that there are terrorist groups operating. But think through also, are there people in the Philippines who oppose us politically? Yes. So there may be groups out there that aren't going to kill us, but they might protest our presence. Friendly forces, minimum, address your higher headquarters. And in this case, our higher headquarters is who? Nope, we are CGTF Eagle Fury. Who do we work for? PACOM, Pacific Command, all right? So Pacific Command is our higher headquarters. Who are we working with in the Philippines? Are there other U.S. units out there that we'll be working with? No. I'll just simplify it, say no. But who else? Say again? The Armed Forces of the Philippines. It's their country, right? And what other government agency is going to be involved in this? State Department. So at a minimum, address the Armed Forces of the Philippines and the State Department. Normally, if there were other units out there, we would also address them. And then finally, what do we own? In this case, you have a list of the PA assets that are assigned to us, but also think about internal PA assets, okay, that we might have. We have an expeditionary strike group, probably is going to come with its own PA team. All right, civil considerations, and we're going to talk media presence. One of the fact was a huge role, but who is out there? we want to talk local, international, and U.S. Who is present? Locals are obviously present all the time, so you're going to have a big list of newspapers, radios, TVs, bloggers. Local people are there. A lot of that is right there in your country guide. International, who reports on the Philippines? Who maintains a presence there? You'll see AP, Reuters, Xinhua, AFP, and then the U.S. Typically, you'll see there's actually not a big U.S. presence in there. Media capabilities. So you talked about 90% of people get their news from television. I think is something along those lines. But basically what we're saying is, what is the most important media capability out there, and what do we need to provide to them? What are they going to need in order to get their job done? So we've already identified mobility, so we're going to need to provide them transportation. Somebody said we're going to need to provide them access to U.S. facilities and ships. Those are things they don't have. But in general, what do we need? Security, transportation, logistics. Think that through. Then finally, next is media content. This is easy. People get wrapped around the axle. What is the media reporting about the Philippines? What is the media reporting about us? And so, again, you want to look at it from a local, an international, and a U.S. perspective. And what I will ask you for is 3 articles from each. And what I'm looking for particularly is what are the issues? This is very similar to kind of the staff briefing. What are the issues that the commander needs to be aware of? What is the U.S. writing about the Philippines? I think you'll find it's almost all about Duterte. What are the Philippines writing about the Philippines? What are they writing about their relationship with the U.S.? What's big news in the Philippines today? And this is where you're going to have to do some original research. Public opinion. You'll see that it says, hey, always consider these 8, but these 8 don't always apply to every mission. And so think through which one of these do we want to, what is the American public? Are we always concerned with the American public? Yes, we are always concerned with the American public. What's the other big public you've already identified? The Filipinos, the host nation. So that's another one. Perhaps our internal. So not every public applies to every situation. You should consider them, but here's what we're interested in. The issues we identified here, what's the American public opinion on our involvement with the Philippines? Sir?
So with an exercise like this,
right.
in a country like that, would we at some point interact with NGOs? Should we be concerned about them? Should we
You might be.
include them in any plans?
Yeah.
Or?
And they would fall under specific interest groups. Okay? In this case, just to give you a hint, probably don't have to worry too much about them at this point. Sir?
So the American public is the U.S. as a whole, and a home station is like where maybe one of the units is based out of?
Right, but we are a CJTF. If you look at the units that we have are from all over. There is no real home station. We're not a single unit. So I think if you focus on this, and on this, you could talk about political leaders if you wanted. Public opinion is tough. If you go and you find that the American public doesn't have an opinion one way or the other about the Philippines, is that an important fact? Yeah, it means American public is not interested in the Philippines. Is that going to affect the way you do business? Yes. So you have to decide whether to accept that or generate interest. So that's one of the things we need to look at. Finally, assumptions. Assumptions is things that you don't know, gaps in your knowledge that you have to make an assumption about in order to continue planning. Do we like assumptions? No, we hate assumptions. They're bad. You've all heard the joke about what happens when you assume. But sometimes we have to make them. A typical PA assumption is we assume that media interest will be high within the Philippines. It's not a fact, you can't predict the future, but you make that assumption and then you're able to plan from there. There should be, in the paper, should be at least one assumption. And then there's, and I'm sorry I'm a couple minutes over, but I wanted to say one last thing before I let you go, is the critical thing is not just collecting facts and stuffing them into the right paragraph. Every paragraph, you should be answering this question. All right? When you say 90% of the Filipinos get their news through the TV, so what? You should answer that question. Therefore, we need to focus on TV reporters. We don't have any translators. So what? We're going to be unable to communicate with the majority of our selected audience if we don't have Tagalog translators. Bad guys are out there, they tend to kill journalists. So what? We're going to, if we want journalists to come and cover us in the jungles of Mindoro, we're going to have to provide them some security. So answer the so what questions. All right. What we've tried to do today is arm you with the basic facts, basic resources to create a PA staff estimate as part of the joint planning process. You will create it. You have your assignment instructions are in Blackboard. I will be back along with Mr. Bird at the staff estimate lab. What I would really, are they doing this in small groups or one large group? Yeah. I'm not sure how you're, but once you've determined what your groups are, is make sure that somebody within your group has read at least one of these documents that we've given you for reference. And all together, that everybody in that you've covered all these documents. Once you've done that, then you should be ready to go to work at the lab and get a lot of this done and maybe be able to identify a few gaps that you can correct through the internet or down to the library in order to fill out that estimate. Questions? And again, we'll be back here on Thursday for the lab, so try not to forget all this stuff between now and then. It happens because we're going to pour more knowledge inside your head, so tuck away some of this estimate stuff for it. If there are no questions, I apologize for being a little over time. I'll turn you back over to Mr. Bird. Thanks.